Ford unveiling its electric SUV at the Los Angeles Auto Show. The Mustang Mach-E marks the beginning of a new generation of all-electric vehicles, and it's the first time.
It's pretty.
Yeah,
it's a pretty
cool.
car.
It's a cool SUV. It's the first time the Mustang name has been used for an SUV, and I think that's a commentary on how serious the company is. Joining us, because you don't use a brand name like that lightly.
No,
Joe Hinrichs is Ford Automotive president, and Joe, great to have you. Great to have you in studio. I think part of the seriousness of this is what Bill Ford said. We've pushed all our chips to the middle of the table. Because it's 2%, it's a small part of the market, but you're going in big by using the Mustang name.
It is today, but as the next 5 to 10 years evolve, you're going to see a lot more electrification taking place in the industry. Well, this vehicle starts under $44,000.
No, not the vehicle, but just to make this move, not knowing how many you're going to sell. It's still going to be a niche
over the next several years, it's going to be smaller volumes, to be sure, but we believe in the next 5 years, you're going to see significant improvement and increased volume in battery electric vehicles. And then by the end of the decade, actually, I think you're going to see a pretty substantial increase in the portfolio.
There are analysts that are actually making comments about competitors like Tesla, saying that they no longer are the only game in town. And they actually were, this analyst happened to be very negative on Tesla, saying that the shares could be way too high based on players like Ford getting into the marketplace. Does it compare to a Tesla, the way it feels, the acceleration and everything else?
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, battery electric vehicles have a similar feel because of the torque and the instant kind of power you get, and the great acceleration you get because you're right at the wheel.
That's similar.
That's similar. Actually, the GT version of this Mustang Mach-E will go 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. So, I mean, it's a sports car. I mean, it's fabulous. I'm going to get a GT version myself, and I own a lot of sports cars because I know the enthusiasts will love it. But you know, we wanted to wait until it started to make economic sense to get into electrification in a big way, and you're starting to see that. We've announced an F-150 battery electric truck coming. Now you have a Mustang Mach-E. More to come after that.
When you say because it now makes economic sense, is that because the cost of batteries and everything else has come down? Is that because you think the market for these vehicles has grown in size? Somewhere combination of the two. What is
all
it
the above? I mean, the charging network. We're now part of the largest charging network in the United States because that's a big deal to people. The cost of the batteries have come down.
Because that didn't exist before.
Right.
You think that was,
we're used to having gas stations on the corners. We can find them. Now you have 12,000 plus charging locations across the U.S. that we're tapped into.
So there's a little bit of chicken egg here.
There is. Consumers are getting more and more accepting of it. The costs have come down, to be sure. And, now that we have a lot more capability of the batteries, we can control them better and give a lot better performance to the customer.
Joe, let me change subjects slightly, but you and I were in the Detroit Auto Show 2 years ago together. We were talking, and we talked about Ford mobility, this notion of Ford doing something that's not quite sort of Uber and Lyft, but it's also not your normal transit system, something in between. What are y'all doing there now?
Well, Walter, you're right. Thank you for joining us back in 2017. We're really working with cities to find those solutions that are broader than just, is it ride-hailing or ride-sharing, but can we redesign the transportation network, inclusive of all the technology available out there with connected vehicles, to make it more efficient? We all know how inefficient it is today. And provide new solutions, whether that's sharing, whether that's pooling, whether that's hailing. Autonomous vehicles are going to be a big part of that. But we need the infrastructure to be part of that solution, and Ford is working very closely with cities as a trusted partner to make that happen.
Do you see a future in which people don't own personal cars quite as much as they do, but Ford still does as well?
We do see that evolving. We certainly believe people are still going to buy their own vehicles for a number of years, but there will be more solutions available to people, like autonomous vehicles or ride-hailing, like you see in Manhattan. Those options will be more efficient. But remember, there's 90-some million vehicles sold in the world today, and the emerging markets are growing even faster. India, Southeast Asia.
What would Blockbuster be for a couple of years from now for sales? What would be unbelievable for Ford, would you say?
Well, if you think about the next 5 years, it's pretty predictable. I mean, given the technology.
Not going to be that high.
No, and the sales rates have been remarkably
and you'll make money
high
on
in the
this?
US. We're contribution margin positive right from the get-go with this vehicle. We're going to make
because it's made in Mexico, which is also kind of a flashpoint.
Well, part of the reason why it's made in Mexico, it's a global vehicle. It's important to our European portfolio, and we can export from Mexico to Europe duty-free. Okay. That's a big part of this. But, we make 80+% of our sales in the U.S. are made here in the U.S., so we're pretty proud of that. And our manufacturing plants in the U.S.
You expect to hear from, do you expect any mean tweets?
Well, you know, the White House knows this is part of our plan. Remember, as far as Ford goes, we produce more vehicles in the U.S. than anyone else. We employ more manufacturing workers than anybody else.
A lot of times those things don't matter.
We export more than anybody else. Well, the facts hopefully matter in this case.
Well,
because we are the most American auto company, and we're proud of that.
How many sort of design cues and things do you think you have taken, dare I ask, from Tesla? The reason I ask is you look at that big, almost iPad screen that's very Tesla. The grill in the middle without a grill, almost grill-less. I don't even know what you describe that as. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, because you don't need the air intake anymore.
Because you don't need the air intake. And maybe that's just a function of
That's a function of that electric vehicle, really. But the design cues of this Mustang Mach-E are really from the Mustang. If you look at the tri-bar, you know, lights and the tail lights in the back, you look at the front end, it's a Mustang, you know, in its soul. But of course, battery electric vehicles do offer you more freedom in the design because of the nature of where the batteries are low and the center of gravity is low.
Now that you've put the Mustang name on an SUV, will you still be able to make Mustangs out of regular cars?
No question. This is not supplementing or replacing, or supplementing. It's not replacing the sport coupes, which, you know, number one selling sports car in the world.
Can you take it further, though? Does the Mustang brand now translate into other categories as well?
Well, the Mustang brand stands for fast, affordable, and fun. So we don't want to go far from there. From an SUV, a battery electric SUV, this is very affordable. Right. But so the fast and fun part's really important. So I don't think you're going to see a van Mustang anytime soon.
What about wife wants a minivan? She wants a minivan.
Well, we can give her other options in the SUV portfolio.
Number one, you got to talk to her, not just say, "Okay, honey." You got to try and talk some sense into her. But
happy wife
New Explorer.
is a happy
I know
wife.
that. I know.
New Explorer hybrid is what she really could be great for.
Will there be a sports coupe EV Mustang?
Not in the near future, but probably someday. Not planned for any time soon. We have the GT500, the 760 horsepower coming out this month, actually. But the sports coupe continues on. We did talk about making a hybrid version of the Mustang. But when we do that, we use the electricity to give more propulsion, more acceleration, to make the feel of the Mustang better, not to replace the kind of horsepower you need to make it a sports car.
I have a separate question for you on autonomous vehicles. For the past couple of years, we all talked about this sort of race towards autonomy. Everybody was talking about self-driving. It was all going to happen so fast. And you hear Elon Musk and others talk about it as if it was a 2020 reality.
Yep.
And it feels like, at least in the last 12 months, the whole thing has slowed down to a crawl. What's happened? Where are we?
Well, reality is set into a lot of people. We were more pragmatic right from the beginning, saying late 21 kind of time frame. This is a big challenge. It's a big technical challenge. We're on our path. It's going to happen someday, but we got to be, you know, safety first for everybody, of course.
But when you just said 21, are we now 25? I mean, what is the realistic view of this?
I think you're talking 5 years to be a realistic, see it in volume, but you will see it in the next year or two, start to roll out in pilot, geofenced areas.
Frightening. One person gets mowed down in a sidewalk, and how long do you recover for that? One person. And there can be zero. You need a Six Sigma. Remember GE?
No, I know,
you need one mistake and 8 million.
It feels like the whole enthusiasm and sort of just
well, it's because
shifted.
Come down to reality, I think.
The expectations for how this performs compared to human driver are very high. So it is a high threshold, to your point. So we're all taking it very carefully. I was driving an autonomous vehicle in Miami on Saturday morning. And in Miami, it's, you know, that's a really tough environment. A lot of things going on. The vehicles are performing very well, but it's going to take years to get this right. And then we have to make Congress has to actually pass laws to make this legal. And there's all kinds of legal considerations to think through. But it's coming. It's just going to take some time to get it right.
So, Joe, we have now buried the recession fear, supposedly. That's what the market's doing well about. One of the reasons we were a little bit worried was because peak auto sales, and we're trying to figure out, you know, and is that going to be the next subprime because of all the auto loans? How's business? How's the industry right now?
You know, the industry's held up very well this year. Pricing's been good. Volume's going to be over 17 million SAR again.
It will.
For a number of years, we've been predicting this peak auto.
But staying there.
The consumer's strong.
What's the average age?
Interest rates are obviously low.
How old are cars now? 10
They're
years?
now, you know, over 10, 11 years old. So that's part of the issue. Replacement cycle. There's more people coming to driving age. But importantly, the great technology. There's a lot of reasons to buy a new vehicle today. The safety, the infotainment, the connectivity. there's a lot of new technology that's bringing customers in.
Tell me again, what does Mustang stand for? If you look it up in the dictionary.
Fast, affordable, and fun.
We need that for Squawk Box. We need 3
Fast, affordable, and
actionable, well, something like that. Did you see how quickly he came out with that? Powerful, influential, and actionable.
Actionable.
How about insightful?
Insightful. We might need 4.
Trying to help.
We might need.
We have good marketing people at 4. We can help you out.
By the way, is there anything deep in your data that you can look at that's a leading indicator for where the economy is going?
Yeah, certainly. We look at creditworthiness of our contracts, which are really strong with our Ford Credit business. We're not seeing a change really there. Length of terms of contracts, something to watch. But the replacement cycle, what's happening with people replacing vehicles and scrapping vehicles? And it's still supportive of a pretty healthy auto industry. Again, the good time to buy dynamic of the consumer psyche is really important. So the market really is an important part of that too, as you all know. So there's a consumer psyche part of this, but gas prices are low, interest rates are low. There's great products out there being launched every year by everybody, and people are good employment, so they have a job, they have good income, so they feel like it's a good time to buy.